Happy Monday to everybody. Welcome back to Heatwave or Out of Office if you're watching this on YouTube. My name is Santi and I'm joined with two very special people. Now I want you guys to do a little bit of an introduction. If you don't have anything prepared, that's okay. Just tell me something that you like to do, something that makes you feel passionate, what your name is, and well, we'll get started from there. So how about we start with you, Alejo? Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, you are getting me kind of off guard with that piece. I don't know where to start, but okay. So my name is Alejandro.
Yeah.
I'm visiting here from Vancouver, where I live, but originally from Colombia. And yeah, what am I passionate about? I would say the first thing that comes to mind is consciousness exploration and kind of understanding why we are the way we are and what's the way we are as a species. And with all that comes related to life, nature, people, community, music. All those pieces that gives us a sensation of being alive.
Yeah.
I can expand in many more things, but I'll leave it to you.
We'll touch on that in a second. I kind of want to draw some connections here because Nico, who is also my brother, actually studied anthropology, a social science, and that sounds a lot like what you're talking about. So how about Nick? You tell us a little bit about yourself. What drew you into anthropology?
Sure, yeah. My name is Nicholas or Nicolás. I did start studying anthropology as a way to look for answers. You know, it was something that interested me, and at the same time, I was hoping for a satisfying experience in university.
Yeah.
And something that would offer me like a sense of guidance, connection, a path, a sense of direction later on. Yeah. And it did.
And I think a lot of people could relate to your story too, because I remember when I was little, I'd see you going to uni doing, what was it called? An undecided major. So, I mean, most people don't really know what they want to do straight out of high school, right? For example, me, I thought I wanted to do business, and I actually did it here at the school. I don't really like it that much, but at least I tried it, and I knew, right? Let's talk about what you studied, because you have a very interesting career path, you know?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would like to know.
Yeah, well, if I were to go about what I have studied, I did a bachelor in law.
Yeah.
Then I moved into corporate law.
Yeah.
Funny and surprisingly enough, from which I went to or related to litigation, working with corporations.
Yeah.
But always feeling that was not enough, that it was not my path. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I have always felt this big passion for environment.
Yeah.
So I went into environmental law and policy.
Yeah.
Then I did a postgrad in green business management and sustainability, and then an MBA on sustainability.
Yeah.
That's kind of that professional path.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I've been kind of studying on my own psychology and having trainings in nervous system regulation, having trainings on somatic therapy, breathwork, working with indigenous communities, working with the environment.
Yeah.
So it's a mix of many things that are bringing me to the place where I am at right now in my life.
And that's awesome. When I was studying here, I took a class, a psychology class. And the first thing the professor said was, this isn't a class on others. It's a class on yourself, on understanding who you are from a psychological point of view, right? And I think you have a little bit of experience, maybe not exactly with psychology, but with understanding human cultures, right? I want to ask you, how do you feel your career changed, or would you say that you're happier since you moved from corporation to more environmental studies, let's say, or like environmental law, sorry?
I would say when I moved from corporate law to environmental law, it was not a big change.
Yeah.
Because I was still in the same setting.
Mm-hmm.
But what I can say is from those times to now, definitely there has been a radical change.
Yeah.
Where I've been feeling like I am living a life that it's more in alignment to what I call the call of my soul. Instead of living by the expectations of the system.
Mm-hmm.
And here I want to bring a term that it's living under the precepts of the authorized world.
Okay.
Understanding the authorized world, what they have told you it should be.
Yeah.
This is what you are authorized to do and be.
Yeah.
And kind of breaking down those precepts and living on an authorized world
Yeah.
and kind of creating
Yeah.
and living the way that I feel in resonance with myself,
Yeah.
with my inner call, living from the heart,
Yeah.
has been, I would say, the key component
Mm-hmm.
to be at the place where I am at in my life right now.
And from what I'm understanding, it was a process. Right? It wasn't just from day to night. All of a sudden, you figured all this out. And I actually think my brother had a similar experience. Not the same, because everybody has a different experience. But I know that you're also very in touch with your emotions and who you are. How did you start your journey? Because I knew you weren't always like that.
Well, psychology wasn't really my path. I
Yeah.
did take a psychology course when I was trying to understand what I wanted to do. So I
Yeah.
went to Humber College, and I went into the continuing education program where I could just take any course I wanted.
Yeah.
And I did find it very interesting, but it was also very scientifical, and it wasn't really what I was looking for. I think
Yeah.
I was looking more for a subjective experience.
Yeah.
I did find that in anthropology. But I'd say I really started to think more about my feelings and my thoughts later on,
Yeah.
right? Or during my experience in university, in my own personal actions and habits, such as meditation,
Yeah.
my eating habits, which you actually
Very important.
helped me think about because you started a vegetarian path,
Yeah.
a vegetarian diet.
Yeah.
You told me, this is actually good.
This
for
is
the
the way.
environment.
Go for
And
it.
then I decided, it might actually also be better for my own health.
Yep.
So I started that, and I think all of those little actions,
So we built that up, right?
yeah, slowly build a bigger awareness
Yeah.
of who we are.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree. And it's funny you mentioned that. I became vegetarian when I was very young. I'm not anymore. But because I saw a documentary about the ways they treated the animals, right? And it didn't last too long, but still. I'm glad that you could get something good out of that, right? And I think that's what we want to touch on today. The good you can get out of your experiences. I know both of you have traveled a lot in your lives, right? So let's talk a little bit about those journeys, right? Let's start with you. What's been the most memorable place, or one of the most memorable places that you visited?
Yeah, I would say it could be either Egypt
Yeah.
or Japan.
Okay.
I think those have been very high energy level places.
Yeah.
And then Peru, but specifically in Machu Picchu. That
Yeah.
was the other place where I felt like that connection. And my homeland, when I go
Yeah.
down to the Amazonas,
Yeah.
that is something that it's of another world.
Yeah. And we actually talk about that pretty often. How even though we were born in Colombia, we haven't really gotten the chance to go to the Amazons or anywhere other than El Eje Cafetero or La Costa, right? Which are just, don't get me wrong, they are important, but Colombia is one of the most biodiverse countries in the world. I think it's second behind Brazil or whatever. So, there's definitely a lot to discover, right? I want to touch on Egypt in a second, but first, I want to know what your answer is. What's been the most, or one of the most memorable places you visited? What comes to mind?
I believe all of them have been about the same to me.
Yeah?
Yes. There hasn't really been one that stands out more than the others. I think I try to make the best
out of all of them.
Of the place I'm visiting. When it comes down to experiences, though, Colombia has offered me, I'd say, the best. In terms of treks, connecting with indigenous presence and people.
Yeah.
The food.
Yeah.
So I think it's just been very satisfying as a person. Right?
Yeah.
Being there and living that experience,
Yeah.
So I would go with Colombia. I remember being on a hike on a trek and just feeling awe.
Yeah.
The whole time.
The whole was that the trek in to Ciudad Perdida?
Yeah.
But you were also pretty sick. Were you in awe there too?
No, I was just in pain.
Straight pain in the
just
forest.
Yeah, just in pain.
Yeah.
But it was amazing.
No, I bet. I mean, it's definitely energy is a very real thing, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
a lot of people don't accept it for a while. I don't really want to accept it because I think the general societal point of view is energy is bad. Stay away from it. Or, for example, from a Catholic lens, right? If you're talking about energy, you're either talking about maybe an angel or God or the devil, right? And we usually attribute the devil to anxiety, anger, fear, right? Like it's corrupting us. And really, it doesn't let us explore who we are, right? I know that you had a very special experience in Egypt, especially you were telling me about the tomb of a goddess, I believe, right? What made it so interesting, so special, so energetically positive, let's say?
I would say within my consciousness exploration. So in terms of traveling, it's not only being physical travel, but let's call it astral travel.
Yeah.
Experiencing with psychedelics, plant medicines. But it's another way of journeying, right? Journeying to the interior and the consciousness. And I have always kind of get back to this point that is related to ancient times, around Egypt time.
Yeah.
Noticing all these gods and goddesses.
Yeah.
So my father, he lived in Egypt. I think before I was born. Yeah, I can't recall him living in Egypt while I was alive.
Yeah.
I might be wrong there, anyways. And he was always telling me like, you have to go to Egypt. You have to go to Egypt. And I was like, okay, sooner or later I'll come. And then that time came, and I went there. I went to the south of Egypt. That surprisingly is what they call High Egypt.
Yeah.
And I was able to get in this chamber at the Karnak temple.
Yeah.
That I was advised to go by a friend. That is like a not very known chamber.
Yeah.
And it was the chamber of Sekhmet.
Okay.
Who's the lioness goddess.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm very in tune with energy. I can feel and I can sense energies.
Yeah.
And I was left there for a little while, some 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I sat in meditation just in front of her in this place that has like so many years, so many things have happened there.
Yeah.
And everything was just vibing. The vibration of the place was like that. It was like a wave moving inside that chamber.
Yeah.
I was even trying to record it with my phone, and it was like not getting on the phone. But there in the chamber, the energy was just vibrating.
Yeah.
And well, the meaning of Sekhmet was also like, she's the lioness goddess.
Yeah.
And I'm very related to the lion and the tiger as two of my protector animals.
Yeah.
Lion, tiger, jaguar, like all that family of felines.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a very special moment for me.
Yeah. And it's interesting you mentioned the vibrations, the waves, because I think most things come down to waves, right? You were telling me about how the moment when you wake up and the moment before you go to sleep, your brain is in a different kind of wave, right? And you can more easily fall into a meditative state. And even I thought about it like this. I invest in the stock market, and the stock market runs pretty much entirely on people's beliefs, right? So it's, if Tesla, for example, is a brand that they love and they think is worth more, the value is going to rise. But if Elon Musk decides to say something bad about Trump, boom, it falls. And you can see that it's a wave, right? When people are feeling negative about something, everything starts falling, but then they start feeling positive and everything goes up, right? And you can feel that all over. Is there any specific experience for you maybe that really stood out to you in terms of waves and vibrations, a place maybe in Colombia, for example, that you thought, wow, this is a highly energetic place?
I like your example, right, about how people's beliefs will affect something or anything, you know, or how a place or a stock is valued or anything, right, is deemed worthy or unworthy.
Yeah.
In terms of a place being high energy or not, or me sensing a difference in a place, I'd say that I usually have a very strong connection with waterfalls. They usually just make me happy, you know? And I think, to me, you know, I'm not very sensitive to a place's, you know, like energy or vibration, but I am an emotional person, right? So emotionally, you know, if a place brings me happiness, then that's big for me, right? That brings me a lot of happiness, right? If I'm at a beautiful place, right, where the water from the waterfall is creating a rainbow with the mist, and it's like a valley, and I'm eating good food and I'm feeling happy, you know, to me,
it's a good moment.
I think that's enough, right?
It's a high, and it doesn't necessarily need to be a historic place. It can be like, for example, we don't have to even go too far. Next to us is the Niagara Escarpment. You remember we saw it?
Yeah.
And near Hamilton, there's a lot of waterfalls there too. And I remember you really liked going there, right? It's a nice place. I mean, it's not like Vancouver, where you have the Rockies right behind you. So you know, it's nice to just get away every once in a while. And I know that you also lead a lot of how could I call them, like nature experiences? Well, not really, but like spiritual experiences in nature, let's say. What would you say is an environment that really evokes a spiritual feeling in you?
I would say the right environment, or the ideal environment,
Yeah.
it's one where the core foundation is safety, where you feel safe, right? As Nico was mentioning, it's all about emotions.
Yeah.
And emotions is energy in motion. So it's the type of energy you are being surrounded by.
Yeah.
If you're in a hostile environment, you are not going to feel safe. So you won't be able to really let go of all your protectors.
Yeah.
And allow yourself, your inner self, or the core self, to emerge, that it's your divine self.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, I think when I carry, or when I practice my ceremonies, my circles in nature, there's definitely a shift. You can see the difference.
Yeah.
When those are happening in an enclosed space, like
It's
in
different.
a room.
Yeah.
Definitely. And that is also one of the ways why there is nature therapy, right? As you are in the forest, you are interacting with the energies of the trees, with the energies of the environment around you.
Yeah.
And there is like this exchange of ions that definitely are supporting you in whichever process you are going through.
Yeah. I think for me, I really liked what you said about a different kind of energy in nature. Because for me, when I'm barefoot on like the grass, or when my feet are in like the ocean, I definitely do feel that it's very powerful. You know, there's a big energy grounding you. I feel that me as a person, I'm a very I like being grounded. You know, I like seeing hard facts, statistics, things like that. Right. So I definitely do enjoy being in nature and being able to enjoy, you know, all of the energies that go around. Right. And well, honestly, I think that's all I wanted to talk about.
I got a question to ask you.
Yeah.
And I like the way you explained, or you think about being grounded as, you know, being rooted in hard facts or something that's stable.
Yeah.
Right? Because, you know, I understand the idea of feeling grounded, you know.
Yeah.
But I think your example really, I guess, explains or describes maybe that feeling, right? A feeling of stability, you know, feeling of knowing where I am, knowing what's around me.
Yeah.
And so if that's the case, right, then I think we can feel grounded in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
You know, and I wonder, you know, what are your favorite ways of feeling grounded?
Yeah.
Outside of course, being in nature and being in a safe place, right?
Yeah.
In your day-to-day life, how do you like to feel safe?
Yeah. I think the most grounded moments in my life are in the morning. Like as soon as I wake up, usually when the house is entirely quiet and I got to go through like yoga or meditation, because I have to really focus on something, on my breathing or on my posture. And being in that state really makes you feel like you're stable, you know, you're calm. Because during the day when you're working, a lot of things happen, a lot of things out of your control. You can get a message from somebody saying, hey, let's check this out, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And there's a sense of urgency behind it, right? And that can definitely cause stress. I mean, if we think about it in waves, it's like a very fast wave, right? So the moment when I wake up and when I start my day is a very special moment, because I get to just do things for me, right? It's not like, oh, I'm doing this for anybody else. It's like I'm starting my day right, my way, because, you know, it's what I love to do. And now that you mention it, I know that you do a lot of breathing exercises. Would you say that it's for a similar reason, or is there something else behind it too?
Yeah, it makes me think of from this conversation, there are two things. One,
Yeah.
indigenous traditions and the indigenous way of living and coexisting with nature.
Yeah.
The sun is medicine, waterfalls are medicine, rivers are medicine, mountains are medicine.
Yep.
We interact with them all the time, so that's something that I want to bring awareness to.
Yeah.
And also that piece that you were mentioning, first thing in the morning, where you feel like this spaciousness in your
Yeah.
mind,
Yeah.
which is tied to this thing that I came to connect with not long ago.
Yeah.
And it's the busyness of the mind,
Yeah.
right? And how, as you get into the busyness of the mind, then you get more stressed, how
Yeah.
your nervous system gets more stressed.
Yeah.
Definitely, right?
Of course.
You have had the cortisol, the natural cortisol peaks that you have in the morning, and now you're like ready to take on whatever you have to take care of, right?
Yeah.
Whereas that first time in the morning, that it's when your brain is in that brain state of, your brain waves are around theta state,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
even lower, let's say between 0 to around 7 hertz.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's more spaciousness. You have more access to your inner wisdom. You don't have yet
All
the
the things,
busyness
yeah.
of the day and all the things you have to do.
Yeah.
Well, that's something you also create, right? Because
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can just wake up, take a
Stress.
shower, have breakfast, and go
Go,
from
yeah.
the very first minute,
Yeah.
which very much will influence the way
The rest
you
of your
will
day.
feel
Yeah.
during the day, and
Yeah.
your capacity
Yeah.
to take on any adverse situation coming
Yeah.
your way.
Yeah.
For me, it's fundamental to have that spaciousness during the morning,
Yeah.
1 hour or so after I wake up,
Yeah.
so that I can regulate my nervous system.
Yeah.
I can ingrain this sensation of safety,
Yes,
basically.
of course.
Feeling safe within myself allows myself to feel safe in my surroundings, my
Yeah.
community, and then in my environment. And
Yes.
knowing that no matter what happens during the day, I
You're
can
okay.
come back to myself.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest techniques that I have used is breathwork.
Yeah.
There are many ways of doing breathwork, but mostly I would say conscious connected breathwork,
Yeah.
or sometimes even breath of fire.
Yeah.
That it's basically helping me mobilize all the energy that it's
Within.
in my body, connect and it's a technique to also get out of your head. The defense mechanism that you usually use is boom, going into your head,
Yeah.
disconnecting from your body,
Yeah.
and then you try to solve everything in your mind. But our conditionings, not to say trauma or emotional imprint,
Yeah.
because there are people that are susceptible to those terms. But, they live in the body. So it's how can you actually connect to your body?
Yeah.
And touching on that piece that you were mentioning about being grounded, is at the end, how can you be present
Yeah.
in yourself, in the present moment, cultivate present moment awareness.
Yeah.
And as you are, the more present you are, the more you are in your energy, in your
Yeah.
capacity.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, you gave a very scientific, very nice explanation for something that I found through trial and error. Because I used to try to wake up a little bit later so I could get more sleep. And then I just shower, breakfast, start. And it's like your whole day is rush. And then you get to 3 or 4 and then you don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, that's not sustainable because our day doesn't end at 3, 4, 5, or whenever your work day ends. Our day ends much later on, and there are a lot more things to do once you get home from work, or if you work from home once you're done, right? So I definitely do agree with what you're saying. I think you also have a very similar point of view, or do you want to add anything on to that?
Yeah, I agree with exercise a lot, especially, doing yoga in the morning.
Yeah,
There was a few times the last few weeks where I was stressed
yeah,
during the workday, and my job will have like active breaks.
yeah,
Right, we'll get together in a meeting and do a little bit of exercise, a little bit of stretching, a little bit of breathing, and I'd be having a very stressful day, and just breathing and getting the blood flowing and jumping around a little bit, doing
Yeah.
some crunches, really just stabilizes
yeah.
me,
it
and
elevates your mood.
yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like moving that energy that is stagnant in your body, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's very much that primal technique that animals used to use. They have the threat coming their way. They face the threat even through the activation that it was even fighting, right? Flying, I'm out of here.
Yeah,
The last resource was like basically freezing,
Paralyzing.
plain death, right?
Yeah.
But once the threat was gone, there was like all this build up of energy in their nervous systems. What was the solution? Shaking. And that's why you always see a
Shaking.
gazelle or a dog shaking after a stressful event.
Yep.
And that ties to what you were mentioning, Nico, of that having that stress and
Moving the
finding
energy
a way to
around.
mobilize that energy
Yes.
that it's in your body.
And that's why it's important to move around, especially when you work a corporate job, where most of the time you're sitting down, you're in this position, right? It's good to get up and get even not just the energy, but the blood flowing to different parts of the body. And I think the main theme of this discussion was that, you know, health, how to move your energy around, and the importance of nature, indigenous beliefs, things that a lot of people maybe take for granted or don't really buy into, but that really do make a difference in your day to day. For Father's Day, we did a ritual where we kind of sat down and really meditated, really went and really try to make contact with our inner child, right? And I really did feel it. I felt every bit of it, and saw like, I know if I say visions, people are gonna think like, oh my god, he's crazy, but I saw like real images in my head of things that I wouldn't have thought of otherwise, right? So there's definitely a big strong point there as to why it's important to tap in with who you are, not just the authorized society version of yourself. And that's where I want to leave this video off. I want to thank both of you very much for coming in. I think both of your insights were terrific, right? Especially coming from an expert and somebody who's been doing this for a very long time. Do you guys want to say anything before we go, or are you guys good?
I'm good. Thank you, Santi,
I'm
for
good.
having us here.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you guys for tuning in. If you're live, this is Heatwave. If you're on YouTube, this is Out of Office. More videos to come. Talk to you guys soon.